Hey up everybody, welcome back. Well, as you can see, we're going to be on with the topper again this week. I've had some bits arrive for Frankenstein's monster to keep us correct. Wiring harness, a couple of other bits and pieces, so I'll get those sorted out and we'll probably look at those the next video. But for this week we're going to continue with this, and as you may remember, I got it to spark but I hadn't got sort of fuel sorted out yet, so we're going to work on that a little bit. But first I have 2 points of order, if you like, so let's deal with the first and most important one. Linda topped up the Nuki Brown reserves the other day, and when I pulled one out I thought to myself, wait a minute, this looks different. So I went and got an empty bottle, because there's always a few of them about, and I looked, and sure enough the labels are different. But when I looked further there was an even bigger difference, which has confused me and you might have to give me some guidance on. Imported from England it says up there, but it doesn't say that there, because it says here brewed in Holland. Now what's that all about? I seem to remember, long time ago, an EU regulation brought in by the French on behalf of the Champagne region, which said that if you called something after a place you had to make it there. And I'm almost sure that Scottish Newcastle wanted to move production of Nuki Brown from Newcastle to one there of the breweries, and they weren't allowed to do it. Maybe I'm completely misremembering, but anyway, let me know what the devil's this brewed in Holland stuff. And it's got a stupid thing on the back as well. It says Newcastle Brown was founded in 1927 after 3 years of perfecting the recipe in Newcastle upon Tyne, England, for the town's working class miners. How patronising is that? Any road up, any information will be gratefully received. Now the second thing is the fuel tap, because I slightly misled you. I could have sworn there was a couple of washers on here, but there aren't. Those, there's the push and pull things. Here's the tap, and you can see it's just got a roll pin in each side. But there's that wedge-shaped plate, and as I say, I'm trying to do this so you can see it. You see, you just work that backwards and forwards, and in fact this one has a couple of little notches in, so that, and this is the reserve, so that when it gets there it locks in, which makes it a bit difficult to pull it out unless it's, you know, I mean it doesn't, there you go. But anyway, as I say, there aren't any washers, and there you can actually see this thing. Is that strange or what? Why they couldn't just put an ordinary lever on, I don't know. But anyway, they poke through this cowl here. I noticed someone asked me how much I was going to get chromed on this. Tongue in cheek, I'm sure, working on the principle that Harley Davidson people love to have bling. So they go through there, see? That's for the light switch. Can you see that? Yes, you can. So yeah, they just push and pull. Weird. Alright, let's get on. As you just saw, I put a new fuel line on this. I've also had the carburetor off, completely dismantled it, cleaned it, blown through all the passageways and jets and everything, so I think that should be okay. Got a nice plug in, get a good spark outside the cylinder. Whether it sparks inside is another matter. And I was going to use this to spin the motor, and then I suddenly thought to myself, that might not be a good idea, because that's a reasonably tight fit into the whatever this thing is here, this clutch mechanism. And I thought to myself, yeah, if the engine does fire and suddenly starts to spin, am I going to get this out in time, or am I going to end up with a broken wrist? So what I've done is I take the cord off. I'm just going to wrap the cord around the thing here so I can give it a pull. Now this video might be on off sort of thing as I try and then make an adjustment and try again and make another adjustment, so bear with me. So anyway, I've got the fuel on. There we go. I'm probably going to get in the way of the camera here, but let's give it up. Nothing. That's it's got one of those horrible push-pull, well, internal twist grips, so who knows if it's working or not. There we go. Right. So what we'll try, put the choke on a bit. I'll give it one more pull, then I'll fiddle, I'll switch off, I'll fiddle, come back when I'm ready for another pull, and we'll go like that for a little bit. But if it doesn't start, I'm not going to waste too much time. As I say, I wanted to get it to run before I dismantled it, just because everything was in place, but I'm not going to hold everything up and tie up the lift table. So what I'll do is I'll spend 10 minutes on this, and if it doesn't start, then this video is going to be dismantling the bike. So let's give it another good pull. Nothing. Alright, let me fiddle. Pull the plug out and it was bone dry. So I tried putting some fuel directly into the carb so it's gone straight in. I don't know if I mentioned this, you know, the engine's laid down, the carb goes straight in the bottom of the crankcases, so I presume there's some sort of valve there, reed valve or whatever. But anyway, I pulled and pulled and I'm not getting anything. So I'm not going to waste any time, I'm certainly not going to waste any more effort on it. What we'll do is we'll take this apart and then we'll have a look at the engine on the bench. There is one thing, can I get my finger in there? Don't know, can you see that? That's from inside the flywheel housing. Now there was some of that in earlier and I blew it all out. So somewhere we got some bronze breaking up. So I don't know what it is, so I don't want to try going on and on pulling this thing and maybe wreck something inside there. Tell you what, let me put you on autofocus. Hang on, where's that? And then bring this up and see if you can see it. See that stuff? So let's I'm going to take a load of photographs of this because I don't have a manual for it at the moment, and then we'll come back and we'll start dismantling it and see what wonders we can see. Okay, AC's cooled the place down, so we're back to our brown coat. Oh, and I'm sorry about the smell, but when I was emptying the tank it got all over the place. Petrol, that is. Alright, so we'll start at the top and work our way down. Now what I'm going to do is show you bits, because I think the last thing, well, I don't know, you're a pretty weird lot. I was going to say the last thing you want to see is me just taking this apart, but I don't know. When I've mentioned that in the past, I've been told, oh yeah, we want to see it all. So where there are things that are going to be repeated, I'll show you at once. So basically what I'm going to do is take all this apart. As you can see, this back bit here again is more strange. I don't know what they are. They're not casting, well, no, they're not castings. I think they've been formed, but they definitely have an aversion for tubing. There's very little. I mean, the main sort of loop tube, I'm waving my arms around here and I know you can't see any of it. Anyway, those bloody things are separate. Look at that. I'm going to have to be careful here. We're going to end up with a million bits. Alright, that's those two. 2 bolts, 2 nuts. Okay, so I'm going to take this off, take these out, I'll do the same on the other side, and then I'll show you what's come off. So the first thing to come off is the fuel tank. See, I'm using my gloves to keep my delicate little hands clean, and also I am utilising the built-in tool tray. So this comes off. There's this fuel tap. Funnily enough, hang on, excuse me. These just, that's plastic. Ah, I hadn't noticed that. That was plastic. You put them on like thus and just twiddle them round, and they lock on. Isn't that clever? So there's the fuel tank off. Next thing is these couple of bolts, and then these weirdo things come off here, so they're bolted on at the back. So let me take those off, and then I think that almost looks as if it's welded on, and then I'll see what else comes off. Right, so this is what passes for the rear subframe. Brackets, brackets. Then this comes off, but this entire thing is welded to the frame. These two come off, so I'll take them off next. I'll get that disconnected from the carb. I take the carb off anyway to get in there. Continues to be weird. I've got the exhaust off. As you can see, it's just it's another wonderful casting at this end. Just a push fit onto the port. So let's take that out of the way, because now you can see the rear suspension. Oh, what passes for rear suspension? Let me see if you can see everything there. Yes, okay. So as you can see, we've got this L-shaped swinging arm. A bracket here, welded to the frame. Now, I was having a look on eBay, see if there was parts available for this, and somebody was selling a swinging arm with this piece, and there seemed to be a spring on here because there was what looked like a fork gator, you know, just like a rubber cover over the spring. But I still don't understand it, because of course when the wheel goes up, this is going to pull this way. So the spring's got to be in tension. It's got to be pulled out. It's got to be an extension spring, not a compression spring. And it appeared in the picture that I saw that these bolts were there, but I don't see how anything moves. I guess maybe these aren't the right ones. They do stick out a bit at that end. And here there's a little rubber snubber. This thing only moves a couple of inches. So it might be that these are just guides for the spring, but it all strikes me as a little odd. So anyway, I will continue. Now I moved you down to show you another couple of interesting things. See the old car type coil just mounted there. These are the pieces that those footboards, floorboards, whatever you call them, are mounted on. You'll see around the front when I move around that that one's bolted to there. But what I wanted to show you here was this piece is twisted, and it's actually split there because that's where this prop stand is. Let me zoom you in to show you that. So here's the prop stand. You can see the holes completely worn away. Mostly of course because it's not actually bolted up, it just goes through, and there's a split pin in the back. It should be right up there, so it stops in there, goes like that. But or is it actually good? You know what, I think it's made like that. Can't be, otherwise it wouldn't be able to go from one of those to the other. God, what a shoddy design. Anyway, this constantly bumping up here has bent this and fractured it there, so we'll have to tweak that and weld it up. I've just been for a cup of tea, and as usual it loosened up the brain cells, and it just struck me when I was trying to start the engine. Remember I said the spark plug was bone dry, even though I put some fuel in here? Well, I suddenly thought the carb was a little gummed up when I cleaned it all out. I'm just wondering if sort of late 1950s, 1960 reed valve technology, if that isn't just clotted up with something so that it's not working right. But because I've taken the exhaust and everything off, I'm not going to try now. But that's definitely something we'll have a look at when I get the motor out. Other thing I noticed, I was editing the film, and when I forget to switch off some of the LED lights I've got, it gets very bright and white things glow. So I've got to try and remember that so that the filming looks good. Alright, on we go. Front end next. Got to take this cross piece off. A couple of things to notice here. There's the dip switch. High and low beam, main and dip. It's just, you know, foot switch like you have in the car. Or used to have in a car, I should say. This engine's got a number stamped on it. It says 61, and I think that could well be the year it was made. There's the brake light switch. Goes on like that. A couple of connections on the back, and when the pedal comes up, it pulls that up. There's that. What else? Oh yeah, these running board things, whatever, are actually fastened on, see the square hole, with little carriage bolts. So let me take this off. This engine cowling, the ignition coil, this thing that sticks down here is a clamp for the exhaust pipe as it comes round. And then actually we're almost, in fact I think we are ready. I'll take the engine out and then we'll deal with the front suspension and stuff like that. Right, I've got all the engine disconnected now. Basically, this plate bolts onto the top, well, to the head actually, and then bolts onto here. And here actually, one of the nice things I found on this bike, there are rubber mountings. And then the engine bolts at the back on both sides, again onto rubber mountings. Now, Steam Shop Dave was round the other day, and soon as he saw this transmission, he said it was exactly the same as on the Rokons that he used to sell, and he used to race in motocross actually. And that the engine in those Rokons was a proprietary engine made by, come on Michael, Chrysler West Bend. It was a Chrysler West Bend engine. So I've got to do some research to see maybe if this was just a bought-in engine. Anyway, so as I say, nicely it's on rubber mounts, and he also tells me that these rubber mounts, which are sort of on little plates, I'll show you when I've got them off, are still readily available. So that was good news. So let me take this motor out. It's a bit lighter than usual. I'll just put it out the way, be back in a minute. Aye, I leaked oil. Where the devil did that come from? Is it oil? Yes, it is. Well, it's oil and gas. Alright, so there's the engine off, and this is the tooth belt that takes the drive from the engine to this thing with a big spring in it, and that has the chain on it. So let me press on. Now we're almost finished. In fact, I've basically only got the wheels to take out, so I'll show you these couple of things. There's the rubber mountings I was talking about, 4 of these. The plate mounts to whatever, the frame in this instance, and then whatever your rubber mounting bolts to that centre point. So the engine bolts to that, and that's got a rubber insert. Okay, the other thing I wanted to show you was these are just the same on the Hummer, which you've seen is a tiny little bike. But they have these enormous levers on them. I mean, they're huge. Great big thick cables, and they've all got just that type of nipple. And the nipple goes in, goes through, and then they all have these. That pushes through there, and you put a pin in. I mean, and look at this. Instead of tapping that, and there's plenty to tap, they've actually put a hex recess in it to take a nut. Pressed a nut in there. I don't know, it's all such heavy duty stuff for such tiny bikes. Anyway, let's get on. Now this is about the last thing I've got to take off apart from the wheels. I'm not even sure how it comes off, but there is a nut in the inside of there. So let's now that's just moving. Turning the whole thing that goes right through. Ooh. It's no good holding that. When I turn this, it's just turning the end on the other side. I wonder if I've got to have the nut on the other side. Hang on. Okay, there is the tiniest little bit of a flat showing on the other side. I've got a 1/2 inch spanner on. But that's not going to hold. You can't get a grip of that. We've all done that, haven't we? This is going to take some looking at. Let me switch you off again. I didn't want to start thumping on it till I'd found out for sure, and it did turn out that it was just an ordinary shaft, so with this nut off the other side I was able to knock it through. We'll look at this in more detail, but this is one of those split pulleys. You can see the big spring there, and as these two move out, in and out, centrifugally I guess driven by this, that belt can go up and down in there, changing the diameter, and thereby the front to rear ratio and the gears. So that's that off. So let me take the wheels out. Now there's the swinging arm out, and as it looked from the side, it's a bit twisted. See, that's not at right angles to these. So we'll have to have a little look-see at that. Oh yeah, that's definitely yes. I think there's going to be some heating and bending and thumping and carrying on with that. So, come back to that, find a way of setting it up so I can measure where it's twisted, because we don't want to just start thumping on it. Alright, front end. And there it is, down to its bare bones. The only thing to take out is this stem. The handlebars actually just knock out. There's a pinch bolt up here, but they're well stuck in, so I've put some releasing fluid in, and I'll leave that overnight, and that will be that. Next thing for this is the sandblasters. So I've got to go through and check the things are straight and what have you before I send it off to him. And next thing we do, I guess, is look at that engine. So that's it for today. Actually, it's taken me basically 1 day to strip the entire thing. In terms of hours, I spread it over a couple of days, but I guess it only took me about 6 or 7 hours altogether to go right down to this. Here's one thing, look, when I got the bolts out that hold the that rear swinging arm in, you know, they were the 2 bolts at the bottom, they're both bent, one of them very bent, and they're just threaded rods, so I don't think they're you know, the original fitment, so we're going to look into that. So as I say, I am done for the day, and until I see you again, you enjoy yourselves.